In Joshua chapter 7, one person's sin made life more difficult for a lot of people. A man named Achan crossed the line, did something that God told the Israelites you're not supposed to do. Nobody knew that Achan had done it. They went in, they were defeated by an army as a consequence for Achan's sin, and then Joshua, who was in charge of the Israelites at the time, he goes to God and he starts talking, and he doesn't know what's going on, he doesn't know why this happened, and then he asks God to remember his own name, his own reputation. And he said, God, what are you going to do for the sake of your great name? And then God answered Joshua. And I want you to listen to God's answer to Joshua, and I'm going to highlight just one word in his answer that's really significant. Here it is. So here's the entire answer. The Lord said to Joshua, "Stand up, what are you doing down on your face? Israel has sinned. They violated my covenant, which I commanded them to keep. They have taken some of the devoted things. They've stolen. They have lied. They have put them with their own possessions. That is why the Israelites cannot stand against their enemies. They turn their backs and run because they've been made liable to destruction. I will not be with you anymore unless you destroy whatever among you is devoted to destruction." So there is God's response to Joshua. And the one word I want to highlight there is anymore. And God said, I will not be with you anymore. Why do I want to highlight that word? Because it was a reminder to Joshua of something really important. That God had been with them up until that very moment. And then God was reminding Joshua that there was a way you could be certain that I'm going to be with you again. God had been with them in the past, then the sin happened, and there was a way that he could know that God was going to be with him in the future. That's important for all of us. In particular, as I'm thinking about Achan and his sin that had a consequence on other people's lives, it's really significant for those of you who have also been hurt by somebody else's sin. You may be someone who right now is having to suffer through the consequences of what someone else did to you, or of how someone else hurt you. We're living with the results of what someone has taken from you. Maybe someone sinned against you. And it hurts. And it's hard. It's made your life much more difficult. And maybe it wasn't just a one-time thing. Maybe it's a day after day kind of thing. Somebody whose love for you seems to have faded long ago. Somebody who has seemed to have given up on caring for you day after day after day. Maybe it's a multiple times a day type of thing. And if that's the case, if you're somebody who's right now living with the consequences of somebody else's sin, they're the ones who crossed the line. They're the ones who've been wrong. And you know it. And they may or may not care about it. Remember the word anymore. Remember what that word would have meant for Joshua. That God had been with them in the past. Through everything. Through all the ups and downs they had previously been through, getting him to that very moment. And then just as he did for Joshua, he gives you a way also to know that God is going to be with you in the future too. He points you to the cross of Jesus, where we are reminded that, well, Jesus didn't die to make us an underdog. Jesus didn't suffer the consequences of other people's sins, so that we could go through life wondering if God was really going to be with us through everything and every sin. He completed that sacrifice so that you could know. God who has gotten you this far, He's not going to fail to be with you so you can keep going. Nothing gets the best of God's children. No one gets the best of God's children. No threat, no consequence, no sin. Remember Jesus. Remember the cross. God will be with you through everything. Rest well tonight, my friends.